What's up, my miners of intelligence and consciousness? I'm Rick Brooks, and this is Rick's Mind. Today with me, I've got esteemed guest, the Particle Kid, Micah Nelson. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, Rick. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's I'm really excited about this, man. I'm a huge fan of your music, and I think that the best way to start any interview is to kind of go back to the beginning. So, I mean, my first question is, how old were you when you started playing music?
I was about 3 years old when I started playing the harmonica, and I would play. I would stand next to my dad's harmonica player, Mickey Raphael, on stage, and Mickey's been playing harmonica with my dad for 60 years.
Yeah.
And I think I just wanted to be near my dad, but I would be up there on stage next to Mickey playing the harmonica. And everyone thought Mickey was my dad because we both had crazy hair. And eventually they started handing me the microphone, take harmonica solos.
Ooh.
I was just a little toddler. And I didn't really start getting serious about it till much later, but that was my first instrument, was the harmonica.
It was your first foray into the world of music, was the harmonica. And then as you got older, did you start out with so you started out with the harmonica, and then did you move into like percussion instruments, or did you go straight into stringed instruments?
No, I started with, my brother picked up the guitar when we were 8 or 9, or maybe 9 and 10. He's 16 months older than me. He picked up the guitar, started getting really into the guitar, and so I thought, well, I'll learn how to play the drums so we can have a band and play together. So I was the drummer for many years, and occasionally, until we had a bass player, I would, when we're making home recordings and stuff, I would play the bass part or sing harmonies with him, just experimental recording stuff. But we taught each other music by just jamming the drums and guitar and listening to classic rock and trying to do that.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to music, obviously I'm assuming you're all over the place, but what genres do you draw most of your inspiration from?
There's probably something from every genre I could think of that I really like. And something that I can't stand, but, when I was raised on oldies music, mostly, there was always the oldies station playing in the car. And then growing up in the 90s, you heard everything that was happening on the radio during the 90s. So I don't know, I've been influenced pretty randomly by so many different things, and I always had music around me of all types. My dad grew up with honky tonk music, and loving singing cowboys and Gene Autry and stuff, and then at the same time he loved Django Reinhardt, the gypsy jazz guitar stuff. So I heard a lot of jazz, and my mom loved Stevie Wonder and Earth, Wind and Fire, Sly Stone, and Aretha Franklin, and Etta James, and a lot of, the classic R&B stuff, Motown and Stax stuff, and the oldies station. And then around middle school, late elementary school, I had this friend who, he ended up being my the friend that you get into trouble together, and you fuck up together, and you do lots of drugs, and you almost die. But he has the best taste in music, and he turned me on to so much great music. I remember he turned me on to Beck and Weezer, and the entire soundtrack from Office Space. We used to just listen over and over again and just sing every line. He turned me on to the Flaming Lips.
Yeah.
As I got older, I got really into, there was a whole period there where I listened to nothing but like punk rock and classic rock. Hendrix and the Beatles and the Stones and Iggy Pop and like eventually I got into Sonic Youth and Radiohead and these kind of bands, and then there was a point where because of the internet coming out and MySpace and indie music and people making whatever music they wanted and being able to share it, I started discovering these bands like Animal Collective and Arcade Fire and Aphex Twin and Square Pusher. Flying Lotus came later, but all over the gamut. I've always loved classical music, jazz, Coltrane, Mingus, and Monk.
Yeah, Thelonious
Miles.
Monk. Yep. Oh yeah.
I just love music from all over the world. I got really into Talking Heads, which introduced me to King Sunny Ade and Fela Kuti, and hey man, hey, sorry,
Yeah, you're good, brother.
I'm doing an interview right now. Hey man, good to see you. Yeah, everyone's downstairs. Yeah. Cheers.
You're
Sorry
good.
about that.
No, you're good, man. You're good.
So yeah, I could nerd out about music all day long. I just love music from all over the place, and actually, my good friend Tato Melgar, who plays percussion in my brother's band, he's like an older brother to me growing up. He was my first drum teacher, and he taught me Afro-Latin, Afro-Cuban root rhythms, and just the rudiments of that, and on hand drums, and then translating that to the drum kit. And I felt like that roots rhythmic sort of foundation that I learned early on really helped me when I wanted to experiment and branch out with playing keys or playing stringed instruments, because I could fake it, I could play the guitar really percussively and simple stuff, but it could be interesting because I could play it with these abstract rhythms and kind of figure out how to sit in with people. And so having that roots foundation, I think, has helped me have the tools to be able to collaborate with all different kinds of people and appreciate all different kinds of music.
Yeah,
so it all funnels into my music somewhere, in some songs. Like, if you gave me a song, I could probably tell you, I was borrowing from this and that, and seeing what it sounded like mixed together.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of leads me to my next question is, like, as far as the your process, like, what is your artistic process? Like, do you have a muse? Like, how are you creating music generally? Like, what do you draw inspiration from other than from people that have made music before that you like? Is there anything else?
Oh yeah, everything. I just I feel like you can write a song about anything. It's like some jalapeno Cheetos here. You could write a song about how delicious Cheetos are. If you just sat down and decided you wanted to do that. And I think films, film music. I remember making home movies when I was younger, and still I've always done that. But like, I would take scores from other films. Like, I really was into Danny Elfman music and James Newton Howard, and I would take these scores from films I liked and apply them to my shitty home movies, and suddenly they seemed like these amazing productions, and it was just the music. I was shooting everything on a little cheap camcorder, but I was blown away at how music suddenly changed the entire feeling of it. And, sound for sound's sake is a great starting point. uh, I remember I spent a lot of years growing up on Maui, and there would be these birds outside my window every morning.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the most psychedelic riffs you could ever imagine. Like, especially there's this native bird, the apapane bird. And I like, just look it up on YouTube, because I couldn't even try to recreate it, but I would try to play their riffs on the guitar, or like figure out how to recreate those patterns. They sound like freaky synthesizers, and that Remain in Light record, that Bernie Worrell stuff, and that's. I remember when I heard that, I like Born Under Punches. I was like, oh wow, that's kind of like what I was trying to do. It almost sounded like they kind of tapped into that, mimicking the sounds of nature. Nature's really inspiring. I've been into Mongolian Tuvan throat singing music, groups like Hunkur 2 lately.
Really?
I love how they, just the whole sort of genesis of that type of music was mimicking sounds of nature, whether it was the wind or like tigers and frogs or whatever. And there's something so psychedelic about that, that I really appreciate. Psychedelics have always inspired my songs. That altered state of consciousness, and tapping into creativity and drawing it back in, and the visions or sonic ideas or whatever it gifts me in those moments. I've always tried to kind of draw from that space and create a tangible representation of it in music or painting or animation or whatever. It's like, I feel like the more open we are to inspiration, the more it shows itself to us.
I would definitely agree with that. When you've taken psychedelics, I've done it, and there's been a few times, and I am not musically inclined at all, but I've heard music that I've never heard. When that happens to you, are you immediately like trying to riff and take that back into this space? Or, I mean, because it's happened to coincidentally the same friend that introduced me to you. We've done a lot of psychedelics together, and we both heard music, and he would just leave, go to his room and start, strumming. Whereas I can't do anything. I'm just like, man, I wish I could, this is the best song I've ever heard. How can I recreate it? Like, well, so what do you do? How do you capture that? I'm sure you can't get them all, but.
Yeah, you gotta catch them all. You just try, and you suck at it for a long time, but you have to do it,
Yeah.
And I think that's really the only thing that, people, I think everyone is inherently creative, and some people just are faster learners, I guess, or they're quicker at maybe developing skills. But I think if everyone, spent enough time trying to manifest those ideas, eventually they could. It's like, I think that's the only difference between people who are considered artists and everyone else. It's like, I've always just had this obsession and this insatiable drive to make stuff and to like create those sounds I hear in my head. And I am not always successful, but I also love the process of trying to do it, because sometimes you discover other things while trying to create the thing in your head that you're like, oh, that's actually a lot cooler than what I heard in my head. Things sound different when you hear them externally than when you hear them intrinsically. And if you're really lucky, you can get exactly what you hear in your head. But I think that it's just trying to do that over and over again and sucking at it and failing and failing and failing, but loving the process so much. It's like eventually you get pretty good at it. Like more confident in like, oh, I hear this thing in my head. I know how to create that in real life. But it's just a matter of doing it so much that one day you realize, oh, I don't suck at this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah.
You've got to be addicted to it, and you'll go insane if you don't create it. That's how I feel about it. I'll go insane if I don't do it.
Well, I mean, you're a very high creative person, right? You create a lot of things. You're more than just a musician. It's my understanding that you also do film. You also, all the album work is things that you've created as well, correct?
The album work,
Yeah.
the artwork.
Yeah, the artwork. Yeah.
Yeah. I when I first started recording my own music, actually, my sort of mission was to try and make music that sounds to me the way that my artwork looks, if that makes sense.
It does.
I was like, look at a piece of my artwork, and it, that in itself sometimes would make me hear sounds and music, and I'd want to create that to like complement this work. But yeah, it really goes beyond all of that too. I love working with my hands and creating things, even if it's working on my house, cleaning the roof with a blower, or building a fence, or whatever it is, building a table out of wood that I found on the land. I love learning new skills and then trying to do it and put my own thing on it. YouTube's great for that.
Yeah.
Learning new skills.
It is. That's one of the perks of it, right? There's always someone that's found a short, like my I have a smoker. It broke down, and sure enough, went on YouTube, found the exact. I was like, man, this is great.
It's great. They'll show you step by step how to fix it.
Oh, the cooking videos on YouTube as well, bro.
Oh yeah.
It's been a game changer for me. So
I think also out of necessity too, of like not really like wanting to say make a music video to accompany the song that I made, or wanting to record this song or whatever. It's like I spent so long teaching myself how to use GarageBand or iMovie, and then Final Cut and Logic and Pro Tools, and starting from scratch, just kind of using whatever I had around and making that work, because I didn't have the patience, or I just didn't want to have to explain my ideas to other people, and I actually really loved collaborating at the same time, but I also there's something about being able to do as much as possible in-house,
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't look like a Hollywood production, it's got a character to it that it just kind of becomes your aesthetic or your sound after a while of just doing it so much, and just, wanting to learn how to do it yourself so you can just do it and not have to call up a bunch of people to do it for you.
But it also, you're like you said, it becomes more authentically you. It becomes it's again part of the process, right? So you're trying to develop a closed loop system, right? In your art, which I think is fascinating, and not a lot of people do that. It makes you more original, right? So I love it.
Yeah. And there's also the aspect of it that when I was real young, that I wasn't even thinking about music so much. I wanted to make films. I wanted to direct films and be an animator, and I was really into filmmaking. And it was just like with music, where it's like I learned the drums, and then I learned how to play the bass, and then I learned how to record, just because it was just me and my brother and figuring it out, and someone had to do it. You know, I'm the guy learning the program, and, you know, knowing all that stuff and having kind of gone through that journey of all of these roles in the band, eventually finding myself like, you know, fronting the band. I know how to communicate ideas and relate to everyone else in the band better because I've been the bass player, I've been the drummer, I've been the engineer, I've been the producer, you know, so I understand where they're coming from, and it just makes the process quicker and easier and more fluid. Same with like a movie set, you know, it's like if you want to be a director, how are you going to direct the actors or the PA or whoever it is if you've never done that job? You know, it's like you got to work your way up through all these things so that if you're the guy leading the way, you know what to tell everyone in their language that they understand to realize the vision. You know, it's not even about you. It's just like, here's this idea, and it's my job to, you know, if I can't realize it myself, to describe it as accurately as possible for you in a way that you can understand it, so that you can, you know, bring your thing to it while realizing the vision.
Yeah, man. 100%. One question I definitely want to ask you. I'm excited to get your song "Bullshit." When you wrote that, was that pretty much Terence McKenna's stoned ape theory in song format? It has to be.
When I wrote that song, to be honest, it started out as a complete joke. It was something my wife said. She was my girlfriend at the time, actually. And it was right around, you know, the 2016 election, and she was reading something, and she was just like, everything is bullshit. And I had my guitar, and I was just like, everything is bullshit, just to make her laugh, you know?
Yeah.
And I was playing these chords while I was doing it. I was like, oh, that's kind of catchy, you know? everything. And we were at Neil and Daryl's place, Neil Young and Daryl Hannah's place for dinner not too long after that, hanging out, and I was showing him my new record, and we were just kind of sharing song ideas. And I was like, hey, listen to this one. And I was saying, everything is bullshit. and Neil's cracking up, and he goes, keep going. You know, so I'm like just staying on the B minor and C. Came out of a bowl, it landed on the ground, you know, and I'm just kind of stream of consciousness making this shit up.
Oh, wow.
Just saying stuff to make Neil laugh.
Yeah.
You know? But then it kind of took that kind of
psychedelic
goes
turn
to this place where it's no longer just a joke or a cynical thing.
No.
And it goes through that whole journey. And, you know, to really answer your question, absolutely. I especially in high school, I loved listening to Terence McKenna.
Me too.
And I ate a lot of mushrooms, and I just inevitably that kind of narrative was coming through in that moment. You know, just kind of wanting to turn this feeling of disparity into actually something that's kind of profound and healing. Ultimately, you know, making it a literal thing, but then it turns into a more cosmic perspective.
Yeah.
But it was all pretty much an accident, and just coming from just a place of wanting to laugh and make people laugh.
I love that song because that's kind of been my motto for most of my life, is like, everything's bullshit. Like, business is bullshit. Like, a lot of people are full of shit. Like, you can, it just resonated with me. And then
that's one thing about psychedelics is they just cut through the bullshit.
They cut through it. If you do enough mushrooms, your ego will fucking die. And that's a very scary place to be. Like, what am I? I'm nothing. Oh my God, I'm not, and then through that journey, plus the visuals are pretty cool too, but you can learn something. I had one of my best friends, he in college, he had a bunch of acid and he was fucking up, plain and simple. I was in his room he did a lot. God, I felt 12, 15 hours, comes out in the morning and is like, guys, I know what I have to do. And we're like, what's that? He's like, I'm getting straight A's this next quarter and I'm turning my life around. And from that day, fucking turned his life around. A few years later, quit drinking, and now he's crushing life. But like, psychedelics are definitely a tool to reset your brain, right? I think it's a giant reset for a lot of people. And there's other plant medicines, such as Datura, which I've never done, don't want to do, that people go to Mexico to deal with addictions. Is a very difficult, from what I've heard, a very difficult trip that you're on. And it's you're going to be you're going to journey within and figure out why you are, addicted to something. And, in my opinion, I think that addiction is unaddressed trauma from your past that you're trying to escape. But yeah, man, the song was great because it starts out funny, but then it takes a left turn, and then pretty soon you're in it. And I really love that song. Really,
thank you.
Yeah, man, it's.
I never thought that would be become a popular song when I wrote it. I definitely get a kick out of that. People really resonate with it.
Oh yeah. So you're a man of passions, and it's my understanding you're very passionate about MAPS research. Are you involved in that in any way, or?
Not literally. I mean, I donate to them.
Yeah.
And I promote them when I can because I'm a huge supporter and believer in MAPS.
Yeah, I am as well. It's these are the medicines that we're speaking of are decriminalized in my state now, so that's nice up in Oregon. So
that's great. Yeah, I mean, it seems like the war on drugs is more or less over at this point when it comes to really cracking down on these types of things, at least in most of the country. And I am a fan of the decriminalization approach versus the just legalize it approach all at once.
Yeah.
I think that in a way, psychedelics just inherently don't really allow for the culture to completely commercialize it. Just the experience itself for anyone who's had that, it's like, it's not quite the same as like marijuana. It's like that can totally easily be this recreational commercialized thing. But, just like anyone who's had a high dose psychedelic experience, that when you go through that, it has such a profound imprint on your whole nervous system that it's so much to process. And a lot of that involves the opposite of sort of, just excessive capitalization and exploitation and commercialization of everything. And, it just informs the need for treating it with respect and caution, and
it lets you know that we're all connected and that this isn't something that we need to make money off of. This is something that we need to share because we would all.
It's medicine.
It's medicine. We would all get along. You realize that I am you and you are me. You are me, just in another life with a slightly lighter shade of skin. And we're all brothers and sisters. It really helps you become connected with it harmonize. It makes you care about the planet. Like lay down on the ground on a mushroom trip and just like, oh my God, I'm part of this whole fucking planet, man. And we're just hurling through the universe. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
You said it.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes I've had some pretty profound trips in like Central Oregon in the Ponderosa Pines, and I was watching. I don't even know if it's real. I do think it's real, right? Like just beams of energy shooting up and down the trees, and then you get online, you learn that in the ground, right, the soil, there's mycelium that ties that sends nutrients to different trees, right? So it's like this neural network that is it's been going on for millions of years, and we've just figured out what the fuck's going on, man. These plants are the mycelium can determine whether it sends nutrients to one tree or whether this tree dies. Like there's this whole ecosystem. We had a scientist on the show years ago, soil science, which we'll probably get into that when we talk about regenerative farming. But we've got a large problem with our soil. And, we haven't we're not the best stewards of the planet, and it's, I guess, we'll get into it right now. Like it's my understanding that you are a big proponent of regenerative farming. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Well, I want to first just acknowledge how glad I am that you're so aware of mycelium and the the need to realign with fungi, the longest living organism on the planet. And a friend of mine, Paul Stamets, he's a mycologist.
Yep.
He and this guy Louis Schwartzberg, who does amazing time lapse photography, they made this film called Fantastic Fungi.
Seen it.
You seen it?
Oh, yes.
Just blasting it out there, whoever's watching this. If you haven't seen that, go on Netflix and watch Fantastic Fungi. I think it's the most important film of the century, probably, for so many reasons, including healing soil and the necessity to heal soil for our survival on this planet. And regenerative agricultural practices being so crucial in realigning with nature, and instead of trying to dominate it with monocultural factory farming and spraying pesticides on everything, and massive chemical corporations trying to control food production all over the world. I've been pretty involved in a group in Hawaii called the Hawaiian Farmers Union United. I highly recommend becoming a member of that group because
what do they do?
Well, they're involved in not just farmer mentorship programs and regenerative agricultural programs and things like that. In Hawaii, they have chapters all over the islands, but they're also involved in legislation, so they can write policy and influence policy around what gets subsidized and all these types of things, what becomes included in new farm bills and things like that on a federal level even. And so the more members they have, the more influence they have. You don't even have to live in Hawaii. But their president, Vincent Mina, is a friend of mine. And I've organized some fundraisers, music concerts and things for them. Growing up on Maui, eating food every day and just seeing how much is imported. It's insane. You can grow year round in Hawaii. The soil is, it needs to be, the microbiome needs to be so much healthier there. And it's been so depleted by decades of sugarcane industry and pineapple industry and these non-regenerative forms of agriculture there that kills the soil so that it can absorb rainwater. So when it rains, that just creates runoff, kills the coral reefs, all of these things. So it's like so many issues we talk about with the environment all come down to healthy soil.
Yes.
When you have that healthy 7 to 8 inches of topsoil. It can absorb rain, which prevents runoff, which makes for more nutritious food and healthier crops. And it keeps the carbon in the ground, which is where we want it.
Yeah.
And cover cropping, growing plants like
Clover, hemp.
Hemp is a huge carbon sink. It sequesters more carbon than trees.
I did not know that.
Per acre. Yeah, like 1 acre of hemp, it sequesters the same amount of carbon as an acre of rainforest, except hemp grows, from seed to maturity in like 4 months.
Oh, wow.
And it requires very little water, 0 pesticides. And then you can use the entire plant to make food, fuel, fiber, building materials, medicine. It's just got thousands and thousands of uses. Bioplastics.
Yes,
batteries.
Bioplastic. I'm going to stop you right there because I didn't realize that you could make plastic out of hemp, and it's like we need to do that. The other day I bought some food. It was probably like 2 weeks ago, and it was a bioplastic. It was like, this is made from hemp, and I was like, fucking fine. Well, that blew my mind, so I got on the internet and I had to Google this, and I was like, we could have plastics, and we could just, obviously don't litter, but you could just chuck in and it's biodegradable. Yeah, man.
Compost. Yeah.
So I'm very hopeful for the future. I think that we're figuring shit out. We've decriminalized a lot of these medicines. We're fuck William Randolph Hearst. This is all his fault, but we've figured out that hemp is a miracle plant. A lot of people knew, but I think that we're going to begin to see massive production of it. It already is happening in Canada, and to a lesser degree, it's happening in the United States. But I don't know, like you're a little bit more educated on me about this issue. Like, how are we starting to see like industrial hemp farms in the United States?
It's a long game. We're playing the long game. It's not coming quickly, but it's coming. It's happening. We're seeing more companies. The problem is the infrastructure for industrial hemp needs to return to what it was during World War II, for instance. If you YouTube Hemp for Victory, you'll get this amazing U.S. government propaganda film from World War II, which is encouraging patriots of America to grow hemp for the war effort, for ropes and body armor and parachutes. My grandfather was a paratrooper in World War II. His parachute was made of hemp canvas.
Yeah.
Every farmer in America was subsidized. Every 4-H club got money from the government to grow hemp. It was basically illegal not to grow it because of its miraculous properties industrially. And like you said, that whole history got buried. The plastics and big oil and automobile industry and all these things, they squashed all of that. But I agree, we're in a very hopeful time right now because people are re-educating themselves about this and recognizing that not only is industrial hemp and pharmaceutical hemp multi-million, billion, bajillion, Brazilian dollar industries. You create tons of jobs, green jobs, but just by planting this crop, you're phytoremediating soil. It just naturally pulls out toxic metals and radiation from the soil.
I did not.
And you're also sequestering tons and tons of carbon. And so, if our government's really serious about, doing all that, bringing jobs to America, creating a value economy here in our home turf and bringing back local jobs, then they need to legalize hemp, just liberate hemp. It's like, that's really what we're up against. Is there's so many stupid regulations that are not backed up by science or anything. Like, if you have 0.3%, 0.03% or something THC in your hemp crop, you have to destroy it.
Yeah.
It's a drug and it's illegal. And it's like, nobody's smoking their hemp. It's like there's weed for that. It's
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
It's legal in most places. You don't, and you're not going to get high anyway. There's such a small amount of,
Yeah.
so it's like stupid little red tape shit. Like we need to raise the limit to like 3% THC.
Yeah.
Even that, you're not going to get high
No.
from it unless
No.
you smoke a field of it.
Yeah, exactly.
But and who cares anyway?
Yeah.
Like why? Okay, people get high all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's not about that anymore. I think even people who, it's like either representatives are ignorant to all of these facts about it, and they grew up with, the devil's lettuce propaganda and reefer madness and shit. But, and they think it's this countercultural hippie thing, but it's really like industrial hemp. Like the founding fathers grew that.
Exactly.
Like the pilgrim ships, the sails were made of hemp.
Yeah.
It's like, they all grew it, and it's really just got so many conservative values built into it. Not just historically, but like bringing back wealth to rural America. Giving farmers a cash crop again, something they can sustain their livelihoods with.
It's better than corn.
Yeah. Or cotton. Cotton uses so many It's like 16% of the world's toxic pesticides are the cotton industry.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's about convincing that cotton farmer whose daddy grew cotton and my granddaddy grew cotton and my great granddaddy. It's like, well, what if you called it a textile farmer? You grow textiles.
Yeah.
Your father grew textiles. Your granddaddy grew textiles. What about this textile crop where you don't have to spend any money on pesticides that kill your soil? You don't have to spend all that resources like water and everything that goes into cotton manufacturing, and make more money and do less work and with less resources and heal your soil at the same time.
Yeah.
It's just education is key. And then you're also up against who's funding these Congress people, big oil,
so
big chemical companies.
There's like a few things. So, I think 2-3 years ago, there was a law passed where you could transport hemp. So we could get it on trucks and whatnot. I think another problem is because it's an emerging industry, because I have some friends that are farmers and they went all in on hemp, but to find buyers for it was really difficult and very shady. A lot of shade balls within an industry, any new industry, like, you're a member of the music industry in the, 60s, 70s, 80s, like a lot of record labels fucked the artists. There's still a lot of that going on, Spotify and all that shit. Right. But so I think that as it becomes more widespread and adopted, and tactics are made and reputable buyers, I think then people will go out on a limb, but a lot of people got fucked. But I mean, I definitely think I share your vision, and I definitely think it's the crop of the future. You can make better clothes, like everything's better by far. I think it's just getting to that point, getting the reputable buyers, getting buy-in and promoting it. It would be nice to get a push from, the government to promote this and get it going, or at least, raise that
it's going to take all of it. It's going to take government, federal subsidies, and the private sector investing. But until the laws are lifted, people are going to be paranoid about investing because, am I going to get busted for having THC? Or on top of that, it's also a logistics thing, because to process a huge field of hemp, you need a decorticator, which is a very large, very expensive piece of machinery. We don't really have many of those anymore, and we have to have those in order to get your product to a buyer. So there's just logistical things, legal things. We're getting there. We're pushing, but your words are so valuable, and your message and your podcast, because everything we're talking about, this is how things change. The culture is having these conversations, and it gets in people's ear, and it changes things.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen overnight,
It doesn't.
but it's a long game.
It is a long
It's a
game.
long game.
It's about planting seeds. And that's kind of the whole ethos of the show, right? Is that there are a lot of really strange ideas out there that aren't mainstream, and a lot of them are correct. And there's also a large conversation that is taking place in podcasts and, across the world with really smart people that I might not otherwise have access to. So I was like, how the fuck do I get involved in these conversations and meeting people and learning? I mean, this is obviously for my listeners, but it's a lot for me because I'm getting every podcast, every show I record, I get a little bit smarter. I get a little bit more aware. I'm able to. I think of myself as maybe a bee, right? And I'm just pollinating different flowers and shit, bouncing around. And it's like, oh, this is some good pollen here, and I'm going to go on to the next one. And through that, we've kind of built a nice community of human beings, and we made connections, and it's been a fun ride. And right now I'm talking to motherfucking Micah Nelson. So it's a wild ride, man. It's all about effort, and it's all about fucking aiming high, man, chasing your dreams, because you only have one life to live. You have all we have is the present moment. And I just don't want to be asleep anymore. I want to be out moving, talking, learning, right? Like I'm not here for a long time. I'm here for a good time, man,
Yeah.
I gotta get off my soapbox, but hey,
I was soaking up every moment of that. I love that.
So
perfectly said.
I want to talk a little bit about Time Capsule. My word on the street is that's dropping tomorrow, man. What's this project mean to you? I mean, how long has it been in the works? And just let the listeners on. There's also something really cool that you're doing with it, so we'd love to hear it.
Well, it's about 32 years in the making.
Yeah.
It's like everything that I'm doing right now. But no, the recordings on the album Time Capsule, they're collected from like the past 5 or 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Songs and moments that never made it on any record. Some of them from years ago, some of them from last year, and I wanted to just put it out. When the pandemic started and lockdown happened, we were literally in the studio, making this record or parts of it. And I didn't know it was going to be Time Capsule then, but I started thinking about how every song we record is like a time capsule.
Mm-hmm.
Every album is this collection of moments captured, and we can revisit them forever and kind of time travel in a way.
Yeah.
Every time we hear a piece of music, and it's relative, it's subjective, but for each person, certain songs, they bring us back to moments from the past.
Yeah.
Growing up, listening to this song, and then we start to feel that way again. It changes our consciousness, and it can remind us of ourselves. All of these ideas just made me start thinking about, well, we're making an album right now. The world is fucking crazy right now. Like, what is going on? This is very surreal. We're lucky to be in a recording studio right now, like just capturing this moment. And then I was like, but that's kind of always the case. It's like, this moment is special because this is happening externally, and that's inevitably, it's going to be affecting the music. Like the songs we recorded during that session were very quick. It was very rushed.
Mm-hmm.
We did maybe 2 takes of everything. And sometimes we only did 1 take, and that's what's on the record.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's very immediate and like a documentary,
Yeah.
And, and then other songs are like, I was in my bedroom and on a 4-track, cassette recorder, or I was in a hotel room. All I had was a laptop, but this song idea came and I had to capture it. And, in a really nice studio with a tape machine and Pro Tools and, but, and then all of the different friends of people that played on this music, all of these things, like, they bring back these memories and these people for me when I hear this music. And then for people who weren't there, they're just experiencing the music for the first time, but there's a moment there where they're hearing that music for the first time and it's influencing that moment for them. And that becomes a memory, and eventually I just thought, instead of putting all these different songs, which seemed like from totally different albums, because they were, instead of releasing them as like separate EPs, which was the plan for a while, I just thought, let's just put it all together on one album, and we'll call it Time Capsule. And it'll just be like a sketchy journal collage of like in a time capsule, you put all these different artifacts and memories in them, and you can revisit it later. And then eventually, when vinyl was too expensive, no one had any money anyway, and we didn't know if we could sell enough to justify spending the money. And then plus vinyl takes so long to make right now. We're like, what are we going to do? We do digital and CD. And I thought, well, I'll make time capsules. I'll make some real time capsules. And for a while, that was going to be 300 metal cylinders that you open up. So I'm going around to plumbing warehouses trying to find, and my manager calls me. He's like, hey, I don't know if we should be sending 300 metal pipes in the mail to all of your fans.
Yeah.
We might get a knock on the door that we don't want to answer. I was like, oh shit. Yeah, you're right. So that eventually led to
The Unabomber.
making hempcrete time capsules.
Okay.
Because I thought, what's a material that stands the test of time? Like hempcrete, it's fireproof, it's insulating, it'll last 1,000 years, and it's organic and regenerative, and the art itself is the message. The medium is the message. So I thought, well, I've been growing hemp. I know hemp farmers. I can source the hemp from. I can chop it up in my wood chipper, and I can make hempcrete. And I took some old light fixtures that had kind of cylinder shape, or like not cylinders, but like egg shapes. And I used them as my molds, and I took some mason jars, and I just figured it out. It took a long time, of trial and error, but it's like what we were talking about. I failed a bunch making these. They were terrible, until I realized, oh, I have to do this, and I have to make it like that, and wait this long for it to cure, and and so there's 20 time capsules, and the only way to get a time capsule is to buy one of the lucky CDs that randomly have hidden in them these time tokens.
Oh, snap!
It has a little QR code on the back, so if you're lucky enough, you buy a time capsule CD, you open it up, there might be a time token inside of it, and you scan that, and then you can redeem that for a real time capsule. And inside the time capsule is a thumb drive with all of the music and artwork and videos of the whole project, a bag of organic hemp seeds that I cultivated myself, and a ticket to the concert in 2042. So this ticket is good for, every concert, every Particle Kid concert in the year 2042. So it's something to look forward to and stay alive for.
Yeah. Well, so
Try our best.
tell the good people where they can find you on your socials. You're on tour right now as well, or the tour starting up?
Yeah, we're starting next week in Denver with the Flaming Lips, April 25th, and we're going to go all around the West Coast. And my computer's going to die in a sec. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Charger.
It's all
Sorry
good.
if it craps out. But yeah, I'm on Instagram and all that stuff. Particle Kid.
Particle Kid. All right. Well, thank you so much, my man. Listen, folks.
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah,
great to meet you.
It's great to meet you too, dude. We'll do it again.
Yeah.
We'll do it again, brother. All right, my man. Well, thanks for listening, folks. We'll see you next week.